bit about breathing, because how you breathe will make it easier or harder, more advantageous for the pelvic floor muscles to actually contract. Okay, so it's important, particularly when you're doing the exercises, to be aware of it so that it doesn't start to get you all confused. Okay, so if we talk about the lungs, so the lungs come down, and at the base of the lungs is the diaphragm. The diaphragm is a muscle. When the diaphragm contracts, it actually moves down. Okay, so because it's kind of like this actually. So when it contracts, it does this. So it flattens out. And because that's to draw the air in. So the air goes in as the diaphragm contracts downwards. Because that has moved down, there's going to be less space in here, so more pressure, and that causes the pelvic floor to move downwards. Okay, so when the air comes in, the diaphragm has to move down. Well, actually it does that in order to draw the air in. That moves down, more pressure, pelvic floor moves down. As you exhale, the air gets pushed out by the diaphragm moving up. Less pressure draws the pelvic floor up with it. So there is naturally a bit of this going on all the time. Subtle, but it's happening. I hope I was doing my hands right. So when we're exercising, it makes sense then that as we exhale, because as we exhale this is going up, that we would, if we're trying to train our pelvic floor, that you think about contracting it at the same time. It's going to make it easier for you to activate it. If you did it the other way around, if you tried to lift your pelvic floor up as you're inhaling, it's not the end of the world, and in fact that might be seen as a progression, because if you're able to lift your pelvic floor up against the larger, the higher pressure in here, you could potentially say that you're stronger in the pelvic floor. And in a no symptoms, ideally not just immediately postnatal, no tummy gaps, no pain, no leakage, all of that, then it might not be an issue for you. But for the purpose of this postnatal program, be aware of, as you inhale, the pelvic floor moves down, lets go or relaxes, and as you exhale, the pelvic floor engages and lifts up. So if we put that into a movement, let's do a squat from my blocks here. I move down into the squat on the inhale because my pelvic floor is going to, and it makes sense mechanically too. So my pelvic floor is going to be on stretch more as I'm in the bottom of the squat. And as I squat, as I go back up, as I stand up, I'm going to exhale all the way up. Okay, inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. This is now my pelvic floor. Inhale, exhale. What I'm not doing is only exhale when I get to the very top. You're inhaling down, exhale at the bottom before you pull up. Inhale down. Okay, so you start your exhale at the bottom of a movement before you lift up. Let's talk about another one. Now, this next one is an abdominal exercise. It all depends on how we're getting on with the tummy checks, and you'll get through this in the program. But if I was to do a little crunch and inhale, the tummy is going to swell upwards, okay? Because the diaphragm has had to move down out of the way. It has to move down to draw the air in. Pressure gets bigger, just like the pelvic floor moves down. The belly lifts up to give space, all right? So as we inhale, not only does the pelvic floor move down, but the belly lifts up. So therefore, if we do lots of sit-ups and we lift up on the inhale, I'm going to have a lovely big bulgy tummy here. So instead, if we're going to do our sit-ups, our crunches, we would exhale our way up. Why? Because the pelvic floor engages, the abdominals move down, and the diaphragm moves up. So you get then your tummy muscles are going to train themselves to kind of flatten into the tummy. So as we move down, then it will be an inhale. So I am resisting with my pelvic floor. I'm lifting my pelvic floor. As I come up, I'm letting my pelvic floor release and my belly release as I come down. The inhale, we want it to be a rib cage and a belly inhale. So there's different ways to breathe. Some people would do this. If you watch my belly hand, it's not going to move or not going to move much. It could be. So you see, I'm almost sucking my tummy in. And there may be times for that, but not in your postnatal rehab. There may be also times for this, which is just belly breathing, but watch my ribs don't move this time. So I'm actually kind of, the diaphragm pushes the belly out. It's not really what we want it to happen either. We want it to naturally come out. So this is what we want. Think of the ribs like an umbrella, and as you put the umbrella up, the umbrella widens everywhere. So when I'll move this hand out of the way. So my rib cage is expanding front, back and sides. And my belly comes out at the end. The whole thing. Okay, so it's not just a rib cage pattern breath, not just a belly breath, like a belly dance, but the whole canister opens and widens and softens and moves in. The inhale lets the pelvic floor release or let go a little. The exhale will encourage it to contract and lift.